Hello, gentle friends, welcome back. Today, the plan is to talk to you about ratatouille via cloaks. So, you know the thing in ratatouille is anyone can cook, right? I believe that anyone can sew. Like cooking, you can start off cheap or you can start off expensive. You can go for the expensive machinery, the expensive materials, or you can start with something simple and work your way up, buying the pieces that you need piece by piece. The reason that I think that cloaks are such a great way to start is because you can do them by machine. I'm doing them by machine, but the longest seam or the longest piece of sewing that I'm doing on these cloaks, I'm doing by hand. Those two seams are so little that anyone can start without needing the machine. That's what I did. That cloak I showed you last time, that's completely sewn by hand. Except for the buttonhole, which I put on later, I will admit to that. So anyway, yes, this is the second part of my very mini-series. We're making another cloak today. So the point of these two cloaks is that they can be used together, they can be mixed and matched. You could, like I said last time, you could take the hood from one, the fastenings from another, and the cloak base from the original one, combine them together and end up with something that you want to make. That's the point. Make something that you want to wear. This one in particular, the way that I've styled it here, is made to look a little bit more Renaissance fair than actually historically accurate. The base pattern does come off some illustrated manuscripts that I've seen, so it is historically based, but the way that it's been styled just makes it look a lot more modern, and honestly, this is the kind of thing that I wouldn't be surprised to see out on the street. So people who want an easy step into history bounding, I think this is the one for you. When I was making it, I was tied by the amount of fabric I had because this fabric came from my stash. You could make yours longer at the front or at the back if you wanted. I would recommend going for longer at the back than the one that I've done. This one just comes down just to the top of the thighs, but I think about mid-thigh to honestly even about the knee would be A, warmer, but B, would give you a little bit more swish. And you can never go with too little swish. But anyway, that's enough talking, so let's get on with the sewing. So for this cloak, start with your fabric folded in half lengthways. Measure and cut off a strip 30 centimeters long to make the hood from. The cloak is designed to reach about mid-chest on the front and somewhere between the tops of your thighs to mid-thigh on the back, though you could have it longer if you want. When you're measuring the length, go from the high point of your shoulder, where it meets your neck, first down the front and then down the back. Get someone to help if possible, but if not, what I like to do is rather than having the start of the tape measure at my neck, I lower it down until it's hanging at the right point, pinch the tape measure on the other end, and then go that way. Anyway, once you have those two lengths, add them together and cut your remaining fabric to that length. I was working from stash, so I just used what I had left after removing the piece for the hood. Take the front measurement from chest to shoulder and mark a line there. Use that measurement again as the radius for a semicircle to mark off the corner. I used the same method that I used to mark the neck hole on the previous cloak, marked a lot of points and then joined them up. On the edge, mark a semicircle with a 7.5 centimeters radius for the neck hole. This makes about a 50 centimeter neck hole, so if you need it larger, enlarge the radius. Then it's snippy time, and rather than marking out the curved corners for the back side of the cloak, I used the trim piece as a template for the back corners. When you cut the neck hole, you have two options. Also cut down the front as I do, or for a more historical look, leave it closed. If you do go for this option though, remember that your neck hole will need to go over the top of your head, so you'll probably need it wider. You will have less hemming to do though, so enjoy that. Okay, so now back to the hood. Trim your strip down to 90 centimeters and then fold it in half, right or fashion side to right side. Curve off one side. I use the hood off my hoodie as a template, but you can also do it by eye. Keep the curve to one side so that the fold isn't completely sewn over. You can see here where it trails off before it reaches the end of the fabric, and then sew that curve down with a running stitch. So in the last video I mentioned testing the fabric before ironing it. This fabric comes from my stash and I had no idea about the actual fibre content except for that it was some kind of wool mix. So before I set the iron to it I used one of the offcuts to do an ironing test. I started on a low heat and worked my way up slowly until the fabric started to react to the heat, and then turned it back down a notch before starting to press my seams. Take your time with each step and remember that you'll be ironing back and forth in sections, so the iron is going to be on the fabric for quite a long time. And with that done, I can press the seams and trim them, ready for the inevitable French seams. You could go for another seam if you're not confident with French seams, but the advantage is that everything is neat, where it will be very visible. Once you've trimmed and pressed the seams, flip it inside out so the fabric's right side to right side, and then pin it again and sew it as close to the trimmed edge as possible on another running stitch. And then once that's done, give it another press to finish it up. For some reason I didn't film pinning the hood to the neck hole, but it's wrong side to wrong side again, and then pop it under the machine with your running stitch. Press, trim and sew again for your second and final French seam. To finish the cloak, mark a hemline the whole way around the cloak. I use the width of my tape measure to mark mine, but if you have a thinner fabric, you could mark a thinner one, say 2 centimeters or so. Fold the fabric over once and then fold it over again to encase the raw edge, matching the inside fold to your marked line to keep it even the whole way round. On the corners, trim off the tip, fold the tip up, and then fold each side, and they should meet neatly in the middle. With the hem pinned, either sew it by machine as close to the inside fold as possible, or tack it down with the larger stitch length, and then whip stitch it down by hand. When whip stitching, take care to only catch a thread or two of the inside fabric, so it's relatively invisible on the outside. It took me about 6 hours to do this, so it's significantly shorter than the circle cloak is. And the last stage is to put fasteners in place. For this cloak I used 2 commercially available ones, but they're essentially large fancy hooks and eyes. I'd recommend for going something of a small to medium size so that you can sew them alternating. So here I have 2, and one side of the cloak has a hook and eye, and the other side has an eye and then a hook. It just helps to keep it from undoing itself because these things have a habit of doing that. To line them up, I like to sew one down, fasten my thread, and then hook the other one on, and put the first couple of stitches in while they're attached, because I find that helps me get it in the right spot. Anyway, this design definitely isn't as satisfying to wear as the other one, but as you can see it's a lot more versatile in day-to-day life. My wife has one on order for the wedding now, so I'll be making another one in the near future. Naturally, the other big advantage is that it uses from half to 2/3 of the amount of fabric as a semicircle cloak, so it's much cheaper in materials. But whichever way you prefer, I hope you have fun with them and they can inspire you to get going with a project of your own. Last time I asked you guys what you did as your first project, and I really loved hearing about everyone's work. So many people started with doll clothes. Anyway, this time, let me know what the first project that you still have kicking around was. I know for some people it's the same thing, but nevertheless I'm still nosy about it. And thank you again for watching, subscribing and liking. You guys are amazing, and thank you for sticking around. I'll speak to you all again in 2 weeks.